Hello, everyone. I'm Blayne Gilmer. Welcome into this SEC Morning Report here on Southeastern 14. It is Tuesday morning, October 10th, and we are approaching Week 7 of SEC football play. The season is halfway gone, guys. Everybody's already got 6 games in, so we are at that halfway point and about to hit the stretch run here as it is getting fall weather, getting a little cool outside, and it is getting that time where championship runs are going to be made, and you can get all the coverage right here on Southeastern 14. Blake Lovell kicked off his daily basketball show yesterday. We've got a daily football show as well that goes live, reaction shows, prediction videos, betting tips. Everything's right here on Fridays. We have Jake's Takes with Jake Crane from Crane & Company on the Daily Wire. So we appreciate you guys choosing Southeastern 14 is your place for content. And if you would like to advertise with Southeastern 14, then make sure to hit up caroline.smith at Southeastern 14 as you see scrolling across the bottom there. We would love for you to be an MVP with us and allow us to continue to produce all this great content out here. So like I said, thank you so much for tuning in. It's a big week, but as we do on Tuesdays, we have to give out our superlatives of the week from the prior week. So guys, there's just some guys that come in and it just seems like everything they do, man, magic. They make plays like crazy. So we're going to give our Magic Man of the Week award to none other than Jaden Daniels.
Hey, I'm the Magic Man now. Yeah.
Jaden Daniels, he is the Magic Man now. I mean, it just seems like everything he does, you cannot stop this LSU offense. It is as high-powered as it gets. Everything they do is clicking, and he has just matured so much. He's gotten to a point where he's been a little bit more selective with his running, but against Missouri, he had well over 100 yards rushing. Of course, he's putting the ball on the money to Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas and you know, all those talented receivers, Kyron Lacey, Mason Taylor, all of those guys. But he just continues to impress, whether it's home or road. If there was any kind of defense over there at LSU, we would be talking about this team in just an unbelievable light. But that defense has been so bad, it's kind of actually distracted from how good the LSU offense has been. But make no mistake about it, Jaden Daniels should be in everybody's short list of Heisman Trophy contenders. He's been that good and that important to this football team. And I think to minimize that would, you know, not be smart, okay? Because he is really playing at a high level right now for LSU. And I just think that when you're talking about the quality of quarterback in this league, he's right up there. Carson Beck is right up there. Jaden Daniels is third in the country in passing. And as we also pick a run through your face Marshawn Lynch award out there, a running back who just shows a lot of determination, you know, get some nice runs for his team. And this is going to go to a guy who's been banged up. He didn't have astronomical stats, but I saw it in person. I saw the leg drive. I saw him being able to push the pile forward. I also saw him be able just to look healthy for the first time all season. The Marshawn Lynch Run Through Your Face Award is going to go to Kendall Milton from the University of Georgia.
When it just clicked in my mind that if you just run through somebody's face, a lot of people ain't going to be able to take it.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't going to be able to take it. And Kendall Milton, you know, he showed some physicality for Georgia against Kentucky, and that's an element that Georgia needs. They need a bigger back, a bruising type back. Daijun Edwards is more of a almost a scat back type. He can be physical at times, but he's more of a every down, you know, throw it to him out of the backfield some. Also, you know, he just kind of is a little bit more shifty. Kendall Milton, sometimes you need a guy who can plow through and get 2-3 yards exactly when you need it, and then also be able to break tackles, push the pile, things like that. Kendall Milton did that, and I think that's an encouraging sign for Georgia there. So he is the Marshawn Lynch Run Through Your Face Player of the Week this week. And then, of course, we have to go to our Dixie Chicks Wide Open Spaces Receiver of the Week. And there's only one guy to give this award to this week, and it is none other than Jermaine Burton for the Alabama Crimson Tide. He was wide open. I mean, he absolutely just took it to that Texas A&M secondary there, and 197 yards on 9 catches. The thing about Jermaine Burton is you got to continue to show consistency. And I think that's something that Nick Saban was asked about Jermaine Burton's performance. He was asked about, what that looks like going forward, things like that, because this was a record deal, tied to career high for Jermaine Burton in terms of receiving yards. And he hasn't been the most consistent player in the world for Alabama. Last year, there were a lot of drops. This year, there's been times where he's kind of disappeared a little bit. The emotions have gotten the best of Jermaine Burton at times, and Nick Saban talked about that in his press conference on Monday. So here, time to start up our They Said It segment here with Nick Saban talking about Jermaine Burton.
Yeah, well, Jermaine has got great ability. We want to, sort of keep him focused on doing the things that he needs to do to be consistent, in his performance. Fundamentally, just keep working on things like, he runs good routes. He's got great ability. He's got really good hands, ball security, things like that. Not getting too emotional in the game where you make bad choices and decisions. So, some of those things are just things that we continue to work on, but we're really excited about the game that he had, his performance, what we can build on with that. And I think he's learning that, you really don't want to do anything to help the other team. And he's done a lot to hurt the other team, so let's don't do anything to help him.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about Jermaine Burton there, and what Nick Saban is talking about is some of the after the play stuff that Jermaine Burton brings. He's always been a very, very emotional player when he was at Georgia, now at Alabama. But the thing about Jermaine Burton is nobody's ever questioned the talent. Okay, he's got the talent. He found himself wide open at times. At Georgia, had some big games there. Remember back with that JT Daniels' first performance when he first got cleared in the 2020 season with Jermaine Burton. I think he went off for the same amount, 197 yards. It was a big opening deal for Jermaine Burton and for JT Daniels then. But now at Alabama, you go look at the last 5 games. Against Texas, 2 catches. Against South Florida, 1 catch. Against Mississippi, 2 catches. Against Ole Miss, 2 catches. Against Mississippi State, no catches. And I think he was been banged up a little bit there. But then 9 catches for 197 yards and 2 touchdowns against Texas A&M. Like Nick Saban said, hey, consistency. I used to have a coach to tell me the only true measure of greatness is consistency. Now, some of that has to do with Alabama finding their way with the quarterback issue and Jalen Milroe growing a little bit and stuff like that. But still, you got to find ways to be consistent if you're Jermaine Burton. That's not just consistent on the field, that's consistent off the field. There's been some stuff there in his past that have haunted him a little bit in terms of just not having the maturity level that he needs to at times. But there is no doubt about it. He is a phenomenal talent, has been since his high school days. I've covered throughout his recruitment, things of that nature when I was with Rivals. So I understand that how talented Jermaine Burton is and what he has out in front of him possibly to obtain if he can stay consistent. But as Nick Saban seems to allude there, he's not going to say that publicly. Nick Saban is not going to say that publicly about, hey, it does not help the other team and stuff like that if it is not an issue. So if he's saying that publicly, that it's being addressed privately with Jermaine Burton as well behind the scenes. And he's just a guy that as all, many 18 to 23-year-old young men have to continue to mature and to develop and realize that what the main thing is. And Jermaine Burton is going to do that. I feel confident, but right now he's still continuing to grow, I think, as a man on top of being a very, very talented player. And we talked about maturity and emotions and things like that. Well, Brian Kelly at LSU in his press conference was asked something along the lines about Major Burns and telling him to get down and all that kind of stuff on the interception. And at the end of the game for Missouri didn't have any timeouts, or maybe one timeout, whatever the scenario was. LSU could have just taken a knee and ran the clock out. Once Major Burns caught that interception, we know he ran it back into the end zone. Then Missouri gets the ball, goes down the field again, and Brian Kelly is just annoyed by this. And we'll talk about why after, but here's Brian Kelly on Major Burns and that pick six at the end of the game, where they could have kneeled it out if he just went down after the pick.
Right. No, he shouldn't score. Yeah. He shouldn't score. He knows he's not supposed to. We actually work on that drill. But I don't know if you guys know this, but Major tends to be a little emotional at times. So, I told him, I said, listen, I get it, but the game's over if you take a knee, and we don't have to watch this thing go up and down the field again. And you're going to kill me if you keep doing things like this.
Yeah, so all the coaches, their hearts just kind of stop, because all coaches worry about, guys, is what can possibly go wrong. And we have a great example to point to from this past weekend. I know this is an SEC channel, an SEC show, but I'm sure everybody, if you're an avid college football fan, knows the garbacle that went down in Miami this past weekend, where Miami literally with 55 seconds left could have just knelt down, ran the clock out. Georgia Tech could not stop it. And coaches on the sideline are telling the offensive coordinator that he can just kneel down, and he decides to call a run play, thus putting the ball back in play. And in live play, a Georgia Tech player strips it, and a couple plays later, with virtually no time on the clock, Haynes King hits a streaking Georgia Tech receiver and beats Miami at the end of that game. So anytime you have an opportunity just to put the game away and there be no opportunity for anything crazy, then that's what you want to do. Because here's the worst case scenario. What happens? Major Burns picks it off. He says, okay, I'm going to go try to score with it. Let's say the ball slips out of his hand. Let's say somebody decleats him, knocks the ball out, and people are displaced out of position, and Missouri scoops it up and they run it in for a touchdown the other way. Okay. Things can happen drastically and can change in a hurry. So there's no reason to put the ball in harm's way. Just get down. We saw this in the national championship game with Kirby Smart 2 years ago. Keely Ringo jumps up, picks off Bryce Young, and everybody sees the picture and the video of Kirby Smart going down, 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 telling Keely Ringo to get down. Now he ends up scoring, but Keely Ringo, these DBs, they aren't used to ball security. They aren't used to holding on to the football. It's a great memory. Great memory for Georgia fans, great memory for everything. LSU, people are saying, hey, is this the jolt in the arm that we kind of needed if you're LSU on defense? Maybe that's a positive thing. There's been so much bad. Maybe a pick six is something you need to spur forward. Brian Kelly's saying is you cannot be a prostitute to results. Meaning, I used to have a baseball coach tell me that. Meaning, just because you hit a home run, okay, doesn't mean your swing is right, or doesn't mean the approach was right, or doesn't mean your mindset was right at the plate. You cannot be a prostitute to results. You have to go about the process the right way and do things the right way. And that's what Brian Kelly is trying to tell Major Burns right there. It's a great coaching point. People can, get all mad and say that Brian Kelly's being an old man and be like, get off my lawn type stuff if they want to. But that would have been the correct play if you're Major Burns, to catch that ball and go down, take out any chance of Missouri getting the ball back, being able to go right down the field, which they did. And that also speaks to Brian Kelly at the end talking about, hey, we don't have to watch this thing go up and down the field again. He knows his defense is garbage right now. He knows they're awful, okay? So don't give the offense any chance. Don't give them any kind of momentum. Now, speaking of momentum, Kentucky's momentum was halted this past weekend when they went to Athens, Georgia. And Mark Stoops got a call in his call-in show from a fan, asking about talent level, recruiting, all this kind of stuff, and then fans being disgruntled with the result and not being able to maybe get over the hump against some bigger teams in the SEC and stuff like that. Mind you, Mark Stoops, the winningest coach in Kentucky football history, and has had 2 10-win seasons in a place that's hard to win at. So he was a little perturbed, I think, by the question and how it went about. But here's what Mark Stoops said about the University of Georgia. So take a listen to this and we'll react afterwards.
It is what it is. And, fans have that right. I give it to them. I just encourage them to donate more because that's what those teams are doing. I can promise you in Georgia, they bought some pretty good players. You're allowed to these days. And we could use some help. That's what they look like. You know what I mean? When you have 85 of them. So I encourage anybody that's disgruntled to pony up some more.
So he's saying, hey, you can be disgruntled, you can be upset, but donate more money so we can buy more players. Listen, I love the honesty. I love that Mark Stoops comes out and says, hey, Georgia's doing it, Alabama's doing it, Texas doing it, Kentucky's doing it. Everybody is doing it. I had a big booster call me from a SEC program. I won't say which one. But I was talking to them recently and talking to them about some changes in NIL rules around the country in terms of high school and how it was going to infiltrate and impact and stuff like that. And he just said, hey, Blayne, listen, it's just pay for play now. That's all it is. We've known that's what it is with NIL. You're not paying these guys to get anything for your business or anything like that. Sure, they may do a commercial or stuff like that, but pretty much you're paying them to go to a school. Okay, you are paying them to play football for you, and those are the rules now. All right, now I don't know the financial situation at Kentucky. I don't know. I would imagine there's some boosters with some pretty big money up there now. Is some of it going more towards basketball or football? I don't know. But what he's saying is, hey, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, it's an arms race out there. Oklahoma, you see Miami, Southern Cal, all these schools around here. It's an arms race now, and the arms race used to be with facilities. It used to be who can have the best facilities and all that kind of stuff. Well, now this is going to shift towards who can provide the best NIL package and who can set people up for the future. Now, do I believe that all of Georgia's recruiting success is about buying players? No, I don't think that's the case. I think there's plenty of people that see and hear Kirby Smart's development of guys into the NFL. 26 players in the NFL in the last 2 seasons, which is a record, and then all the many before that have come as well. And I think they want to win championships and all that kind of stuff. But when all else is even, when there's a lot of high profile programs out there, and also playing time comes into effect, all that kind of stuff, NIL is a huge piece of it now. And Mark Stoops is just saying the quiet part out loud. And then, of course, let's not be naive, guys. We know that these major programs, and I'm not just saying specifically Georgia, I'm talking about Georgia, Alabama, Texas, I mean, guys, all the way from programs in the Big Ten, Ohio State, Michigan, everybody was paying these kids under the table before it was legal with NIL anyways. Now it's just out in the open. So that is, I think it's kind of refreshing, the candor there with Mark Stoops. And plus he's a little frustrated. They went out there and got punked, up against Georgia, and they pride themselves on being physical, and they were not as physical of a football team as Georgia that week. So he's a little frustrated with that. And the team that did it to him, things are going good when you're getting asked questions in your press conference about, the process and ability of your quarterback, and then also coaching kickers. And I thought this was a hilarious exchange right here between Mark Weiser of Athens Banner Herald and then also Kirby Smart. So listen to this on Kirby Smart and coaching kickers.
Kirby, you don't have a special teams coach per se of your on-field assistants. I'm curious with Peyton, who seems to have gotten on track. What does it look like in terms of getting him right from a coaching perspective? Who's responsible for helping him?
Well, you don't coach kickers. I don't know if you've noticed that. I don't know. There's nobody in the country that has somebody that specializes in the actual technical process of kicking. You know what I mean? I think every team in the country that's got the financial stability, they have good psychological sports management, and they have all the people that can help him psychologically, which is more of it than anything. Mechanically, the kids, he's been good for a while. They all have their kicking coaches back home, and if they're not kicking good, they might use that kicking coach. But we use sources here that are more sports psychology path than what's wrong with your stroke.
I love how the first part of that Kirby response, and like, I don't know if you noticed, but we don't coach kickers. And then he laughs about it. And it's like talking about, hey, you know, the old football adage, hey, kickers, people say, well, kickers are people too. Okay. The kickers are a different bird, man. You just let them do their own thing. As a former football coach, I know everybody just kind of treated the kicker like, hey, can you put it through those uprights? Okay, that's good, man. Great. You know, go over there and do whatever you do. They have all these strange routines. I mean, there's, you know, around the net, they may have some incense, some candles burning, whatever they need to do. It doesn't matter. You leave them alone. You tell them, hey, when we need you to come put it through the uprights and get us 1 or 3 points, that's what we expect you to do. And Kirby is also saying the quiet part out loud. Kickers are a little bit of a head case, man. So they said, hey, you got to, if you're financially stable enough and you got sports psychologists, those are the people working with the kickers, the shrinks, because it's mental, man. It's like a golfer. Okay. You gotta go out there and be able to hit a little wedge shot and you know, put it close to the pin. And sometimes people get the yips sometimes and aren't able to do that. Peyton Woodring, a freshman for Georgia, is who they were talking about in that clip, and he had some struggles early on in the year, but nailed some nice kicks against Kentucky and has been on a little bit of a streak here lately. So obviously things are going right in his mental process. And also, as Kirby Smart alluded to, the kicking stroke is going well for Peyton Woodbury right now. But I thought that was pretty funny. Now, guys, this one I don't have the sound on, but I did want to read a quote here from Jimbo Fisher in his press conference on Monday as they prepare for Tennessee. And people asked about, you know, Evan Stewart and getting him more touches and him being more involved in the offense. He said, Jimbo Fisher said, we have to get the ball in Evan's hands. There's no doubt. He's got to touch it. Your playmakers have to touch it, and Evan is certainly one. Evan Stewart had 3 catches, I think, for 46 yards against Alabama on Saturday. He has to touch the football more. I don't care if it's quick screens. I don't care if it's jet sweeps. Him and Anais Smith total between the two of them, and this is including special teams for Anais Smith, touched the ball 8 times during that game. That is unacceptable. Le'Veon Moss had 16 carries for 49 yards. I understand that you can't just say, okay, well, we're going to drop back and pass every time against that Alabama front because they just can then they can pin their ears back and they won't be honoring the run and play action won't work as well. I'm not saying give up on the run game. I'm saying, but find ways to get the ball to Evan Stewart and Anais Smith because they are the best 2 players on that offense and they need to touch the football. Jimbo Fisher, he can say it till he's blue in the face, but they have to find ways to distribute them the ball and do it very, very often. I mean, there's no reason that between those 2 guys, they don't have 15, 20 touches a game. And that doesn't have to be deep balls and things like that. It can be little quick screens. Like I said, it can be bringing them on jet sweep. With Anais Smith, he can line up at running back and play running back. He's done it in the 2020 season. He had almost 50 carries for the team. So there are ways to get him the football, and they're going to have to do that against Tennessee at Rocky Top. If you think, one, that you're going to line up and run Le'Veon Moss and Amari Daniels against Tennessee at home, I know they were tough on the run against Florida, or they didn't do well against the run versus Florida in the Swamp, but Tennessee is a very disruptive front. They're number 5 in the country in creating havoc, and that means, you know, plays in the backfield, creating turnovers, all that kind of stuff. Their havoc rate is extremely high for Tennessee. You have to be able to find ways to get your playmakers in space and get those linemen, instead of running north-south into your backfield, get them going side to side, get them worn out a little bit, things like that. You know, utilize Tennessee's own strategy against them, tempo, spacing, stuff like that, you know, on there to get their defense tired a little bit, then start to be able to run the football on them. Evan Stewart and Anais Smith have to touch the ball more, guys. I just don't see any way to be able to get around it. You've got to find ways to get the ball to your playmakers more in that game, especially with what Alabama was doing and stonewalling the run game. You would think that they would have found ways to get it to Stewart and to Anai Smith more in that game. Guys, we appreciate you tuning in here to the SEC Morning Report. We come to you each and every weekday morning from 10 o'clock Eastern and then also 9 o'clock Central every morning. So thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to check out the Daily Show with Chris Lee and Blake Lovell, Gavin Schoenwald, all that comes on at 12 Eastern, 11 Central. And then Blake Lovell has a daily basketball show that is going on as well, a live show. So there's so much content here. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Guys, we have all of our previews and prediction videos out for week 7. So you can check those out on the channel. But like I said, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. And if you want to advertise with us, guys, then make sure you hit up caroline.smith at Southeastern 14. If you think the SEC football and basketball and baseball fan is your target audience, then you need to advertise with us, and we'll be glad to work with you and be able to promote your products and services right here on Southeastern 14. So thank you so much for tuning in. I am Blayne Gilmer, and we will catch you guys next time right here to talk more SEC football, basketball, baseball, all the great sports. But if you see me, it's going to be SEC football. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time on Southeastern 14.